to clothes. Blacks work. It just works with everything.
Anyway, my 3 out of character questions are: have you ever played on a live stream game besides one that I have run?
Yes.
Whose?
Sleeping Pegasus, Fall of Equestria.
Thank you.
I don't think anyone actually watches the stream, but we do stream.
Are you willing to use a webcam for the stream? We will provide you with one if you are willing to use it.
Yeah, sure.
What is your favorite Dungeons and Dragons module or your favorite Dungeons and Dragons dungeon?
To be perfectly honest, I've only really ever played 2, and that's Lost Mines of Penelver and Avernus. But I am just getting into Waterdeep, and it seems awesome, so I gotta have to say that one.
Waterdeep.
Dragon Heist.
Well, we've already had someone recommend that. In the meantime, I'm going to turn this over to Prince Dazzle. As of now, you're in character in a interview room belonging to an adventurer's guild.
Oh, and if you do not want to use push talk, you do not have to in this situation, as long as there's not a lot of background stuff. Anyways, welcome to the Wayfinder Foundation, an exclusive adventuring guild with expeditions both dangerous and exotic, and of course mundane over the entirety of Eberron. My name is Lord Borman Irdane. I founded this, foundation. And this over here is my associate. She is going to be doing the recording.
Next to him is a beholder with all 13 of its eyes turning to face you as various lenses appear over the eyes in order to create cameras from multiple angles. The beholder sits there and goes, "Oh, right, I'm Grisaldi. I'm here to do the recording and note taking." At which time the eye stalks apparently have pens that now attach to them that are perfectly designed for the eye stalk to hold as they begin jotting down notes.
Isn't she adorable at this time of day? Anyways, then, please have a seat and introduce yourself for me.
Thank you. Yes, she's lovely. Absolutely not terrifying at all. Thank you. So, yes, I am Meriadoc Wineback. I am a wizard extraordinary, and here's my card. I do parties, illusions, drinks, fireworks, incredible feats of magic, and I can pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right, then. So then, let's go with the first question here. So, you're going to be seemingly around Thrain. What do you seek? What type of accomplishments do you wish to gain? What do you want out of your adventures?
Well, that is a very good question. For in the short term, I just want to keep my business afloat, stay alive, and not get dragged into any more shady business. But in the longer term, I am traveling on par with my god, the Traveler. And I really hope to someday make it really big so I can impress my parents and return home.
So where were you born?
In Silargo, in Corenberg.
Interesting. Okay then. So I understand that your vocation, you entertain those around you, and it does say you're a wizard for hire. Have you always wished to be a wizard, or is there any other type of vocation that you enjoy? You mentioned the Traveler. Have you ever tried or wished to be more of the religious type?
A bit, but I was raised to be a wizard. You see, my mother is a senior librarian at the Library of Corenberg, and she tried to raise me to be a wizard. My father tried to raise me to be an accountant, which, while it's helpful when I run my business, it's not really that fun. But when I was at the library, I got really into theater and the performance arts. So I really wanted to be a wizard just for the stage magic to begin with.
Interesting. All right, then. Well, as you know, with the previous war and things that sometimes when you adventure, there are things that you need to do that you may not be comfortable with. Have you ever killed anyone before?
No, will that be a requirement?
Not necessarily, but I'm curious. If you did have to kill a human, let's say for sake of argument that they were, say they're a very terrible person, how would you go about slaying them?
Preferably, I would get someone else to do it, and I have plenty of magic to help with it. I can blind people,
Ah,
but hopefully, I would be working with a friend or ally. I mean, I could just run away, but if it absolutely comes to it, people that touch me will get hurt. So, if I want it, that is.
alrighty then. What's your favorite spell?
That's a good one. I have to say, minor illusion. It's just so helpful to, like, even when I sing and create, I just put up a screen behind me and, yeah, let people see what I'm thinking. It's also a lot cheaper than actual fireworks.
True. So I know that most wizards tend to have some sort of arcane pet of some kind. What would yours be?
Oh, it's a bunny, but I haven't done much with it. I draw it out of hats, and it helps me out with shows. And if I get paid really well, I can turn it into a dove as well
Ah,
for
interesting.
magical tricks.
All right then. Well, let's steer away from having to harm a human. Let's say there's a large creature that you've been hired. You and a group of friends have been hired to deal with this large creature. Imagine it's a gigantic lizard, not a dragon. Something that's ripping up a farm town. If you
You mean
had,
like a drake?
yes, yes, let's say a drake is attacking a farm village, and I want you to imagine that you have access to the most powerful spells in all of Corvair, your wildest imagination. Which one would you wish to be able to use on such a massive beast that's, killing people? How would you get rid of it?
Well, I've heard that the answer is always fireball, but I don't think so. I would probably try to use illusionary terrain to just hide the entire village, and then use create major image to lure it away.
Ah,
Is that
so
just that is one of the very few illusion spell that can create a smell as well.
So you would wish to use your powers to be able to hide an entire city to be able to save the creature away.
That would be quite impressive, wouldn't it?
It would be. Okay. All right then. So when you're adventuring, sometimes unfortunately adventurers do die, and sometimes it's sudden, sometimes you don't know it's coming. If you could describe your ultimate death, um how would it happen? Where would it happen? When would it happen? And importantly, if those around you saw your final moments, what would you want them to see out of you?
Well, ideally, I would say about that age, 150, in my bed, surrounded by all my children and grandchildren. But that's not very heroic, I assume. So, I mean, a famous last stand is the thing to go, right? Like if said Drake was attacking and I stand alone, only me, leading it away from the village, for example. And then everyone would say, "What a brave dude that Mary was."
Hmm, interesting. So self-sacrifice would be what you would imagine to be the ultimate death for you.
Well, I would much rather take the alone in my surrounded by my friends in bed at a very high age.
Fair enough. Um, since you were born in Zalargo, I know they have a very interesting cuisine there. What's your favorite food?
Oh, I have to admit, I'm a real sucker for fried potatoes.
Interesting. All right. So, is there any type of food in Zalaga that you, or anywhere on Corvair that you hate that you would never want to eat?
I'd rather not eat insects. I
Ah,
I haven't actually seen it done, but I've read that they do so in some cultures, and that just gives me the willies.
yes, it's quite popular in the continent of Zendrick in the jungles. Fair enough. So, is there anything on your person or something that's important to you that you protect that you would just feel amiss without?
That would definitely be my spell book. I don't know how I would make it without it.
Ah, so you're always on the lookout for more materials and scrolls to be able to learn new magics, I assume.
Absolutely. I didn't used to be. Like I said, when I was a bit younger and at the library, I mostly just had a few spells, and that's the one I use all day. But since I started traveling, and especially since I left home, I've found that the more spells you have, the more versatility you have, and some can be really quite impressive. And yeah, the more you know, you know.
Very true. So has so you left home and you're wanting your family to welcome you back in open arms. Does that mean that something happened to you when you were in Zalago that you can't go back to yet?
Not technically, but I did get a warning from the trust, but you know how they are. They usually do a warning, and if you change your behavior, then it's all good and dandy. But I thought I'd take the safer route and spend a few months in Breland.
Ah, so what happened in Brayland to make you want to go to
Well,
Thrain?
it's the home country of my mother, and it really wasn't. How should I put this delicately? It wasn't exactly what I had hoped for. Uh, there was this war you may have heard of some years ago.
I think
Uh,
everyone heard of that war.
yeah, we too. I mean, my mom fought in it to and fro, but I don't think I realized just how the scale of it until I actually visited Breland. And what I have to assume would be the after effects. Visited most of the major cities, and I can only say that um, well, I wouldn't want to insult the rulers by saying they are a bit on the corrupt side, but it's very easy to fall into bad company there.
Yes, Brayland is a very militaristic area, and that, of course, gets a lot of people to be very seedy. So I understand that. In your time in Zalaga or Brayland, is there anything you regret that you've done?
Well, coming there for a start, no, I shouldn't be that. I mean, it's change and it's travel, but um, getting mixed up with a gang was not a good idea. Luckily, it was quite easy to slip away.
Ah, interesting. So, is there anything that you're afraid of? Perhaps the gang coming after you for leaving?
Well, I used a false name, so I hopefully not. I mean, there are criminals everywhere, but sadly to admit it, I have grown kind of accustomed to dealing with them.
So you said that you serve the traveler, correct?
Well, serve is a strong word, but out of all the deities, I consider him the one I have most in common with. And I use that as a bit of an excuse for this big trip when I left home.
Hmm. So, if you ever had the choice or the chance, rather, would you wish to meet him?
Yeah, God, that's.
Eberron's a
That
strange place.
Yes, but that is epic hero level stuff. That's kind of a bit above my pay grade. I mean, it would be cool, but I'd be terrified.
Well, let's go into this a little bit. So, I want you to imagine this is years ahead of time. You've been traveling with a group of adventurers, and the traveler calls upon you as he needs aid, as you know, does happen sometimes with those of high stature in Eberron. He tells you that a curse has fallen upon him. And once you get into his temple, you have to make a choice. You either sacrifice your friends that you've been traveling with to save him, or you allow him to die to let your friends live. Which would you choose?
That is a very delicate question. I'd say that since the traveler emphasizes change over anything else, I think he would be quite fine whichever I choose, because even if I let him die, he would come back in some other form, I assume. And if I leave my friends behind, then I will always meet new ones. I'd feel absolutely rotten about it, though. But from the religious perspective, I don't think there is a wrong answer here.
Biss, but which would you choose?
I choose friends. I don't really have any, so if I ever got some, then I would want to keep them very much.
Fair enough. So let's talk more about your vocation, being a wizard or an accountant, rather. If you could choose, would you ever wish to be born as a different race, a different, and have a different vocation?
Being a gnome would have been a lot easier to make my ways around the Korenberg. The doorways are quite low in many places, but not really. I'm quite happy with the way I look. I mean, if I could pick, I would be a bit taller, a bit more muscular, maybe a bit more hero looking.
Interesting. All right, then. So, is there anyone back home in either Zelarga or Braylon that you fancy, that you would love to come back to and meet someday?
Well, I mean, not exactly fancy, but my parents, and I do have a few friends, especially in the library. And from my old theater group. Didn't really have that many friends growing up, but there are a few people I would like to meet again.
Okay.
Sadly, no girlfriend, if that's what you're asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well...
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So, this leads into another question of mine. So, you more or less had access to one of the grandest libraries in all of Corvair. Did you ever read about any type of equipment or gear or some sort of artifact that you've always, in the back of your mind, wanted to find?
Well, I mean, we did some plays and I did a lot of assignments, so I read up on a ton of magical weapons. But if I have to pick a favorite, it has to be the Sword of the Unlikely Champion.
Oh, and why is that?
Because, I mean, usually you have this magical sword that has been passed down through the ages, and this really cool hero comes and finds it and saves the kingdom or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I really liked about the Sword of the Unlikely Champion is that it looks quite normal. I mean, when you touch it, you can feel that it's magical, and no one can wield it except for the wielder it chooses. And as the name suggests, that's really not the person you're expecting. It will be the right person for the job, but I mean, I like to think that it sort of gives people a chance. If you could choose anyone, then it could even choose me.
Okay, interesting. So you would like at least the chance to be able to see if you're able to wield this type of a weapon.
Yes, but I'm really not much of a sword fighter.
No.
But that's the idea.
Okay. So again, adventuring can have some crass effects on people. If you had to take upon a curse, what would it be?
That is a very good question. I mean, I've read some really funny curses. There is one curse that makes you live forever, and that sounds more like a blessing to me, so I guess that doesn't count. Probably the weirdest I have known was this person, everything he touched turned to gold. And I mean, I figure if maybe you wear no, that wouldn't work. Uh, I d- I'm not very good with curses, but I mean, vampirism and lycanthropy could probably be something you can live with.
Okay.
It's kind of cool. I've read a lot of stories, and they seem to have a lot of romance, and people like them for some reason. A lot of people hate them, so you'd have to hide who you are. But I do that anyway, so yes, something like that I would probably pick.
Okay then. So let's delve into that a bit more. If you had to choose between lycanthropy and vampirism, which would you prefer?
Oh, definitely vampires. They have a lot more style.
Hmm. Interesting. Even though you know that in some places, lycanthropy is an accepted thing, where pretty much everywhere in the entirety of Eberron, everyone hates vampires.
I did not know that. Then yes, lycanthropy,
Okay,
and
well, it's difficult. So let's just do a little pragmatic. Sometimes an adventurer is forced to make snap decisions. Say you come upon a house that is burning and collapsing. In the rubble, you see a human and an orc. You only have time to save one of them. Who would you save?
well, this is when you should be a stronger wizard. So you can just save everyone, but I'd probably go with if one of them looks if one of them looks injured, I'd just save the one who is the least bit injured because they would have the greatest chance of survival.
Well, I mean, which would you pick, the human or the orc? If there's no discernible difference between the two besides their race.
The closest one. So I mean,
Ah,
probably the human because I would recognize them first, I guess. But honestly, I wouldn't care. No, too much difference between the races outside of Celargo. We don't really have orcs there, so I haven't met them.
fair enough. Speaking of different races, if you could, do you know much about dragons?
A bit, yes. I know some of the legends.
Hmm. If you could be a dragon, what color would you be?
Blue, I think, because it's my favorite color and it matches my robes. And it just looks great, and I mean, it has the added benefit of making you almost invisible when you fly against the blue sky.
Alrighty then. Hmm. If you were, are you willing to sacrifice yourself to save your friends?
I don't know. I haven't really been in that situation. I mean, I've done smaller things like that when we did some gambling at the university. I took the fall once, so I guess that counts. So yes, definitely.
So you've mentioned gambling and getting around with interesting crowds. Do you have a limit to what you would discern as not okay to do? I assume you'll fine with stealing.
I mean, sure, especially if it's someone rich or so. I mean, that's practically heroic.
All right then. What about murder?
I would prefer to avoid it, but I have associated with people who threaten to do that. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it myself, but I guess sometimes it can't be helped, and there really are some people the world would do better without.
Hmm.
Like, you want to murder a tyrant, then sure, I'd sign me up. I'd do the distraction or something.
Okay. Interesting. So, if you lost your spell book, what would you be capable of doing?
Right now, I can shoot sparkles and colors out of my fingers. I can create a fog cloud to, well, doesn't really do much, but I'm hoping it will be really awesome to make like smoke effects and smoke screens and have a great tactical value when I learn how to control it better. Oh, and I can do a lot of things that seem like sleight of hands, but they just get better when I do it than when what they did in the book and when my friends do it.
Is there a place in the entirety of Corvair that you wish to visit?
I can also make drinks. A place to visit. I mean, honestly, I'd like to see as much of it as possible. But given how my parents raised me, I would like to see the other magical universities and hopefully learn something there.
Interesting. Let's see. Have you ever been curious about other continents besides Corvair?
I mean, in an academic sense, I know there was this really interesting expedition to the North Pole a while ago. I mean, something like that would be quite epic to just have your name remembered for being the first person to set your foot on another continent.
Oh, trust me. That was my expedition.
That was you?
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
So let's go to another question. So, do you want to get power? Do you want to be a wizard of high esteem?
Yes. I mean, my mother is held in very high regard as both a battle mage and as a librarian and teacher. And I mean, part of why I left was because I just couldn't keep up to that level, and hopefully I will one day. And when I return home, like, my parents will be proud of me for doing something they can't.
So, would you be willing to take a shortcut to get stronger, to level the playing field?
Absolutely, that's what spell scrolls are for.
What if one night you were visited by a demonic entity that wished to grant you skills? Would you?
I've read too many books to say yes outright. I'd probably read the contract, but I can't see myself accepting something like that.
You can or you can't?
I can't. I've seen my mom summon a demon once, and that was freaking terrifying.
They can.
Granted, I was 13 at the time.
Oh my. Well then. Well, unless my associate has another question, I believe that's all the questions I have for you.
No, I think I got it all.
Don't forget to blink, darling.
The eyes blink in sequence.
Yeah, that's terrifying. No offense.
Anyways, I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to going over this information. And again, I appreciate you taking the time aside to come to my office today.
Well, of course. I'm always looking for work.
Perfect. Anyways, those are all the questions I have. So unless you have a specific question for me, then you're free to pop out of the room at any time so we can prep for the next interview.
Thank you. I should probably not take up more of your time.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you so much for popping in, and we're going to begin starting the next one.